This is leather spray, okay? And it's from Cariad Towers. Right, I'm going to talk to you about how you could, if you wanted to, clean your own bedding edges. I have with me some sandpaper. I use loads of this stuff, so I use rolls. You can buy it in sheet form, a couple of sheets at a time, Halfords, B&Q, Wicks, you know, DIY stores, that type of a thing. A piece of wood, okay, that's all you need, and you need your eyes and your hands, and that's it. Now then, why are we talking about this? People ask me all the time about bedding edges, they're always asking me about them. There seems to be this huge thing for drummers out there that we've got a bit of an obsession with bedding edges. So first of all, I did a video with my brothers, my twin brothers, relating to whether a bedding edge angle makes a difference to the sound. So check that out. There's the link across the top there, hopefully. Check that out after this. But this is a DIY little video to help you if you do want to check your own bedding edges, what you can do and how you can clean them up if you feel you need to. So there's only a few things a bedding edge needs to be. Of course it's important. If this was a square edge, then the drum head, as it's trying to come over the top, like as you pull it down, naturally, if that's a square edge, it's going to get trapped and caught, causes wrinkles, doesn't give a nice tone, it doesn't allow it, the head to flex properly. So what you do is that you cut a pitch either like that or like this, whatever it is, as long as there's a slope away either side and a minimal amount of contact point, and then it can stretch down over. Sometimes the drum itself is warped. So what I always do is I put it on a solid surface, make sure the surface is dead flat. I either use this, or on the other side of my workshop there, I've got a thick granite table in a steel frame, and then that's on a steel bench as well on legs. So it's really solid, perfectly flat. I'll put it on. All I do is I just go like that. And if the thing rocks, then you know you've got a bit of a problem. So just move it around and you can tell. You just feel straight away this is flat. It's not an issue. Some people will cover the top, put a light inside and have a look, see if the light comes through. I mean, I think you're really picking on the finest of detail there. I don't tend to do that. Take your hoops off, take the drum head off, give them a wipe and a clean, just with a cloth, because sometimes when we're playing drums and we don't touch them for a long time, it's surprising how much dirt gets trapped in there. And then sometimes it does, it sits on the top, and then it's causing you to have a bit of a problem trying to tune your drum in. So clean them down first. Clean, flat, and smooth. That's the three things. Three little things. Clean, flat, and smooth. There you go. So this is nice and flat. I've cleaned it. However, because I spray all the time, what happens for us when we spray in, I'll show you the bottom of this drum here, then the spray comes up onto the bedding edge. So I always remove that for every customer. So all I do is I sit in on a surface, watch you don't tip the drum, you know, make sure your work surface is in a comfortable position, so you're not stretching, you don't want to slip and scratch. But say you took your drums apart and you thought, actually, there's a lot of muck and so on, I do want to cut them back. You're not cutting in the way of sticking them on the routing machine and changing the angle or cutting the drum down. When I say cutting, you're just taking the surface off. So all I do, I will use a coarse one to start, like an 80 grit, something like that. This is 60, but it's fine. An 80 grit. If you're unsure, use a finer grit, but it takes forever and a day sometimes. You want to cut first, and then you want to polish the cut, and then you polish your way down. So that's all I do is there. I look at how the bedding edge is, and I just check the angle, and all I'll do is I just go back and forth very gently, away from me and down, not round like that. You don't want to slip in any way because you damage the paint on the shell. That's worse than messing with the bedding edge, isn't it? So all I do is that. Okay, so that is it. So if I show you now, can you see how accurate it is? Because you're just sanding a tiny amount off, which is just removing that paint edge, that is perfect all the way around. We sometimes overthink things. We think that everything has to be automated and put in a big machine and the machine goes round and sorts it all out. Don't underestimate the hands, the skill of the hands and the eyes and the brain all connected together can create a perfect bearing edge, you know. So I do that, then I'll drop down to a finer grit. This is 120 for an example. I'll just go down and I'll just making sure that if that's, because that's quite coarse, I just go a little bit more and I just fine tune that in. And again, flat and beautiful. Look at that. You see? Stunning. Now, you might think the inside also looks grubby and mucky and there may be some paint on there. This one has got some paint on the top or some dirt. Something has happened to it in its history. So again, I put the coarser one on and then all I shall do is to sit inside and I either go that way or sometimes on a big drum I'll go this way. If the drum is quite big, I put my arm inside the drum. And again, all you want to do is get your block of wood to sit at the angle of the bearing edge. You're not going to do a huge amount of damage if you're slightly off. You just follow the contour. That's all you're doing. So I'm just looking at it all the time, just following it around, okay? And then again, I will drop to the 120 just to make sure it's really lovely and smooth. And the final thing that I do, but be careful with this, if you're not unsure, you don't want to slip or tip the drum, especially a smaller drum, it's easy to tip it over. I will just... Now, I'm not taking anything off there, or I will put it on the granite table that I've got and I put sheets of this down and I'll do a little bit of that, but a lot of time it doesn't need it. The only reason I'm skimming the top is just make sure it's not sharp and there's no splinters, so it's just like it's perfectly smooth. I wouldn't advise people, by the way, when you do this to run your hand that way. Always check by running your hand first that way, because if you go that way and you have got a splinter, you're just going to stab yourself. However, the reason I do it straight away is that I know as soon as I've sanded, I know what I've got. You know, I've done enough of these to just know there's no splinter there. And that's all you need to do. If there's a nasty dink, if it's a tiny little dink there, put a little tiny bit of filler and sand it. If it's a nasty mark, then yes, speak to a local drum builder or us or whatever and get some advice if you want to. But if the two drums are tuning up fine, you've got a little dink on there, then it's doing fine. Don't forget, people sometimes say, oh no, look, there's a millimetre of a dink in there, that's going to affect my tuning. It doesn't. How come that on a snare drum, on the underside, they put what they call a snare bed on there? So they cut a big drop down like that to allow the snare wire to sit. Well, how does the drum head then get affected? Because that's not perfectly flat. Suddenly you've got this dip in the snare on the underside, and that's a super thin drum head as well, and it often has a problem of a wrinkle there. Do I like snare beds or would I prefer flat? See, there's pros and cons to both. So don't over worry when you've got just a little dink. I'm talking about if you've got damage, then you need some advice. And if you just want to get them clean, look at the difference here now again. So you can see there's muck and dirt and just generally, you know, not looking so pretty. And if I flip around and just show you the part that I've just done, it's really lovely. Oh, it's down here, look, really nice and clean. So the last thing I do, I use this product, okay, drum dial bearing edge conditioner. It lasts for ages, to be honest with you. I use it because it's easy, because I just shove that on my toolbox and I know where it is in a little container. Some people use candles, and some people can use even a bit of Vaseline in a tub, you know, but that's quite firm, so it's quite good. It's a bit like a glue stick. So I use this all the time. Predominantly the reason I use this, it does claim that it tunes heads faster, keeps the drum head in tune for longer, and it's easier to tune. I don't know if I would go that far personally, but when you sand your drum, so when I sand this drum down, then the inside of the drum is already pre-waxed and it's got a certain colour. Then of course you've sanded this and it becomes a raw colour, so it doesn't match. So I use it, which I have done on this side for you. I use it, look, a little sample there, because that colour now has been waxed. This hasn't, but it matches better to the inside of the drum. As you can see there, it looks better. So when I spray these and polish them for the customers and I send them out, it sort of just gives a bit more of a personal touch, and it's nice. And I sometimes then will clean the inside as well if they got nasty damage, if they require. Sometimes do, sometimes don't, depends on the customer. So just give them, but at least the bearing edge is really, really pucker. So I like that. It does feel smoother, it feels a bit more professional. So you can do that. Leave all the hardware on, just take your hoops and your heads off, clean the inside of the drum heads as well, in case there's all filth inside of there. Sand carefully, take your time with it, put it back together again, and this job be done. Okay, hope that helps. Give us a like down there and a subscribe and all the rest of it. And if you really feel like helping us, become a Patreon. The link is down below. Become a Patreon, help us out a little bit in that regard, because then we can produce more videos for you and all the rest. Okay, take care, over and out, look after yourselves.